days of Elijah, declaring the word of the Lord.
Welcome to Love's Last Call with Evangelist Carol Ann of Agape Light Ministries. Please open your hearts to hear an anointed message that will encourage and empower you to walk in the love and light of God's Word.
Beloved, God's prophetic word of truth has made certain that there will be a global system in place during the tribulation period, which will be ruled by the Antichrist with the aid of the false prophet, who will serve him in this worldwide effort. Both the book of Daniel and the book of Revelation give us specific details regarding this future event. And while many, even within the church, are not paying much attention to this Luciferian agenda, it has been growing in power and strength from the moment that it was birthed in the heart of this agent of darkness, up until this very hour in which we are now living. And its timeline can be followed by those with a discerning eye. Following the pathway to this global endeavor and understanding the timeline that has been marking its progress will not only give confirmation to its reality that is unfolding before our very eyes, but will also alert us to just how close we really are to its complete formation, meaning that the tribulation period is very close to its commencement, making the rapture of God's true church even closer. And so please allow me to pick up where we left off in our last segment with the year 1884, the Fabian Society. The Fabian Society was founded in Great Britain to promote socialism. It takes its name from the Roman general Fabius Maximus, who fought Hannibal's army in small debilitating skirmishes, rather than attempting one decisive battle. July 14, 1889. Albert Pike reveals who the true object of Masonic worship is. Albert Pike issued instruction to the 23 Supreme Councils of the world on July 14, 1889. He revealed who the true object of Masonic worship is, where he is quoted as saying, "To you, sovereign grand instructors general, we say this, that you may repeat it to the brethren of the 32nd, 31st, and 30th degrees. The Masonic religion should be, by all of us initiates of the high degrees, maintained in the purity of the Luciferian doctrine." End quote. 1890 to 1896, Cecil Rhodes. Cecil Rhodes, an enthusiastic student of John Ruskin, a strong proponent of socialism, was Prime Minister of South Africa, a British colony at that time. He was able to exploit and control the gold and diamond wealth of South Africa. He worked to bring all the habitable portions of the world under the dominion of a ruling elite. And to that end, he used a portion of his vast wealth to establish the famous Rhodes Scholarship. 1893, Parliament of World Religions held in Chicago. The Theosophical Society sponsored a Parliament of World Religions that was held in Chicago. The purpose of this convention was to introduce Hindu and Buddhist concepts, such as reincarnation, to the West. 1911, the Socialist Party of Great Britain publishes Socialism and Religion. The Socialist Party of Great Britain published a pamphlet entitled Socialism and Religion, in which they clearly stated their position on Christianity, in which they are quoted as saying, "It is therefore a profound truth that socialism is the natural enemy of religion. A Christian socialist is, in fact, an anti-socialist. Christianity is the antithesis of socialism." 1912, Colonel Edward Mandell House. Colonel Edward Mandell House, who was a close advisor to President Woodrow Wilson, published Philip Drew, Administrator, in which he promoted socialism as dreamed of by Karl Marx, end quote. February 3, 1913, the 16th Amendment of the U.S. Constitution. The 16th Amendment to the U.S. Constitution, making it possible for the federal government to impose a progressive income tax, was ratified. but very few people know that it was patterned after plank number 2 of the Communist Manifesto, which had called for a progressive income tax. In Canada, the income tax was introduced in 1917 as a, in quotes, temporary measure to finance the war effort. 1913, President Woodrow Wilson. President Woodrow Wilson published The New Freedom, in which he revealed the following. Since I entered politics, I have chiefly had men's views confided to me privately. Some of the biggest men in the U.S. in the field of commerce and manufacturing are afraid of somebody, are afraid of something. They know that there is a power somewhere, so organized, so subtle, so watchful, so interlocked, so complete, and so pervasive, that they had better not speak above their breath when they speak in condemnation of it. End quote. December 23, 1913, the Federal Reserve. The Federal Reserve, which is neither federal nor a reserve, is a privately owned institution, was created. It was planned at a secret meeting in 1910 on Jekyll Island, Georgia, by a group of bankers and politicians, including Colonel House, who was an American diplomat. This transferred the power to create money from the American government to a private group of bankers. The Federal Reserve Act was hastily passed just before the Christmas break. Congressman Charles A. Lindbergh Sr., father of the famed aviator, warned, "This act establishes the most gigantic trust on earth. When the president signs this act, the invisible government by the money power, proven to exist by the money trust investigation, will be legalized." End quote. 1916, President Woodrow Wilson's observation. 3 years after signing the Federal Reserve Act into law, President Woodrow Wilson is quoted as saying, "I am a most unhappy man. I have unwittingly ruined my country. A great industrial nation is controlled by its system of credit. Our system of credit is concentrated. The growth of the nation, therefore, and all of our activities are in the hands of a few men. We have come to be one of the worst ruled, one of the most completely controlled and dominated governments in the civilized world. No longer a government by free opinion, no longer a government by conviction and the vote of the majority, but a government by the opinion and duress of a small group of dominant men." End quote. 1917, V. I. Lenin. With the aid from financiers in New York City and London, V. I. Lenin was able to overthrow the government of Russia. Lenin later commented on the apparent contradiction of the links between prominent capitalists and communism, where he is quoted as saying, "There also exists another alliance, at first glance a strange one, a surprising one, but if you think about it, in fact, one which is well grounded and easy to understand. This is the alliance between our communist leaders and your capitalist." End quote. May 30th, 1919, the Royal Institute of International Affairs. Prominent British and American personalities established the Royal Institute of International Affairs in England and the Institute of International Affairs in the U.S. at a meeting arranged by Colonel House, and which was attended by some various Fabian socialists, including noted economist John Maynard Keynes. 1920, Winston Churchill. Britain's Winston Churchill recognized the connection between the Illuminati and the Bolshevik Revolution in Russia. He observed and is quoted as saying, "From the days of Spartacus Weishaupt to those of Karl Marx, to those of Trotsky, Bella Kuhn, Rosa Luxemburg, and Emma Goldman, this worldwide conspiracy for the overthrow of civilization and for the reconstitution of society on the basis of arrested development, of envious malevolence, and impossible equality, has been steadily growing. It played a definitely recognizable role in the tragedy of the French Revolution. It has been the mainspring of every subversive movement during the 19th century. And now, at the last, this bank of extraordinary personalities from the underworld of the great cities of Europe and America have gripped the Russian people by the hair of their heads and have become practically the undisputed masters of that enormous empire, end quote. 1920 to 1931, Louis T. McFadden. Louis T. McFadden, Congressman and Chairman of the House Committee on Banking and Currency concerning the Federal Reserve, was quoted as saying, "When the Federal Reserve Act was passed, the people of these United States did not perceive that a world banking system was being set up here. A superstate controlled by international bankers and international industrialists acting together to enslave the world for their own pleasure. Every effort has been made by the Fed to conceal its powers, but the truth is the Fed has usurped the government. It controls everything here and controls all our foreign relations. It makes and breaks governments at will," end quote. Concerning the Great Depression and the country's acceptance of FDR's New Deal, Congressman McFadden also asserted that it was no accident. It was a carefully contrived occurrence. The international bankers sought to bring about a condition of despair here so that they might emerge as the rulers of us all. And again, end quote. 1921, Council on Foreign Relations, or CFR. Colonel House reorganized the American branch of the Institute of International Affairs into the Council on Foreign Relations. For the last several decades, almost 80% of the top positions in every administration, whether Democrat or Republican, have been occupied by members of this organization. December 15th, 1922, the CFR endorses world government. The CFR endorsed world government in its magazine Foreign Affairs. Author Philip Kerr stated in his article From Empire to Commonwealth, "Obviously, there is going to be no peace or prosperity for mankind as long as the earth remains divided into 50 or 60 independent states, until some kind of international system is created. The real problem today is that of world government," end quote. 1928, The Open Conspiracy, Blueprints for a World Revolution by H.G. Wells. The Open Conspiracy, Blueprints for a World Revolution by H.G. Wells was published. A former Fabian socialist, Wells wrote, "The political world of the open conspiracy must weaken, efface, incorporate, and supersede existing governments. The open conspiracy is the natural inheritor of socialist and communist enthusiasms. It may be in control of Moscow before it is in control of New York. The character of the open conspiracy will now be plainly displayed. It will be a world religion," end quote. And this is where we must pause for now, beloved, but prayerfully and God willing, we will pick up here in our next segment. Surely, as we have been following the Luciferian timeline of the plans for a global one-world order, dramatic confirmation has been given, not only to its certainty as revealed in the books of Daniel and Revelation, but also to the apostles' words penned in 1 John 5:19, where it is written, "We know that we are of God, and that the whole world lies in the power of the evil one. And we know that the Son of God has come and has given us understanding, in order that we might know him who is true, in his Son Jesus Christ. This is the true God and eternal life." And until next time, unless we meet Jesus together in the air first, I pray that you will keep contending earnestly for that eternal life truth, in genuine faith and devotion to the one who is the way and the truth and the life, Yeshua HaMashiach, Jesus the Messiah. And as always, beloved, I bid you his agape.
You've been listening to Love's Last Call with Evangelist Carol Ann of Agape Light Ministries. If you have a prayer request, please contact us at Agape Light Ministries, P.O. Box 6313, Chesterfield, Missouri 63006, or via our website at www.agapelightministries.com. Again, that's www.agapelightministries.com.